If you're alone and somebody just switched the radio on, there's a voice that's connecting straight to you.
Community radio and broadcasters is owned by the community. The community will do whatever necessary. I mean, that's where the social values are.
Gives people a chance to start somewhere without the pressure and to realise that something's achievable. Who would have thought that I've ever been on radio?
Without Umeewarra, we'd have nothing. We would not be up to date. It is like a lifeline.
Yeah, my name is Vince Coulthard. I'm a Umeewarra person from the Flinders Ranges area. I'm currently the Chief Executive Officer of Umeewarra, and I've been here since about 92. I grew up in a little place called Napabana, which is a community east of Lee Creek. In the days when I was growing up, there was a mission. The missions came about, they were formed back in the early 1900s, formed by mostly church groups, directed by the government. It's about, they were designed to assimilate Aboriginal people and so they can become citizens. They weren't allowed to live in towns, so they had created these little communities around all parts of Australia, actually. It is a big movement back in the early 1900s. Now they're just communities. We have one just out of Port Augusta, Devonport. But there's also a mission there, the Umeewarra Mission. That's where Umeewarra got its name from, actually. The radio station from the lake, and that's situated between Port Augusta and Devonport. This radio station was created for the purpose of getting the voice of Aboriginal people out there to the broader community. Umeewarra Radio is the second oldest Aboriginal radio station in Australia. The oldest one is Karma. Karma was created back in, it's coming up for its, I think it might be close to 40 years now. Yeah. And Umeewarra has been around for a good 30 years. The founder of Umeewarra was the same founder of Karma. He's now passed on, the late John McCumber. He created Karma Radio, which is in Alice Springs, and then he came on to Port Augusta and talked to the Port Augusta Aboriginal community, and they all agreed that there should be a radio station here. And he negotiated with ABC, and ABC became a big sponsor initially for Umeewarra, provided us a lot of studio equipment, but also in the early days gave us their broadcast van to use to produce a short program for ABC, which they used to run on a weekly basis for Umeewarra. Eventually we got into broadcasting ourselves, and we're just over 30 years now broadcasting.
So I grew up at a place called Umeewarra Mission, which is a children's home where over 480 plus children went through from all over South Australia, but including the Northern Territory and Queensland. And the reason I mentioned Queensland is because that's where my mother came from, in Birdsville, which is, she's a Wanganguru woman of the Simpson Desert. My grandmother, she came from other side of Umeewarra, and she was part of the Stolen Generations. She's Lurija. And then my grandfather, when she came down here and she went to Colebrook Home, just in Quorn, It was her working environment within the Flinders Ranges. She ended up meeting my grandfather, which is the Adjumatna connection. So, which is, because we're right on the doorstep, Adjumatna is, the culture is more what I align to. I think I've always been involved with community and in my roles in Port Augusta. Growing up in the mission, we always, as kids, had to think about the other person that we was with, never about me, me, me. So in my life, that has been my base, that's been my foundation, is to always work and think about other people. So whether it was nursing or whether it was in the police, I basically ran a community. I've been there for 15 years as a volunteer. And it was just a natural progression to work with Aboriginal Media Association to get information out to community more effectively. And I think that's where my interests come in, but also to how do we get messages out to community in a more effective way than through the air.
There was a survey done some years back now as to how many different language groups here in Port Augusta, and it's a little over 40 different language groups. So Port Augusta actually is unique in a sense that with so many different language groups coming from all walks of life, actually, right around Australia.
Why an Aboriginal radio station? Well, one of it is about the life expectancy. What are the things that we want to do to help educate? What is the healthier choices we should be making as Aboriginal people? So not only just going to the clinic and going there, how do we get the messages right to the core? How do we get the messages right to the people? You can switch that radio on, and I was cruising up the road there going towards Umeewarra just 2 nights ago, and I switched on the radio, and there's message coming through the radio, and it was about not allowed to smoke, but there was when I was listening to it. It was our people talking in the language that I could understand, so you could relate straight away, you could connect. Aboriginal people need to be able to tell the stories and news and be updated with key messages and what we need to hear through our own media, because it's often warped. There is, when we look at mainstream media, you only hear more so the negatives. And we need to be celebrating the positives. And I think that through Aboriginal radio and Aboriginal media, we can do that if we're in control of what is going out. We can celebrate the wins, but when something comes out that might be controversial or negative, then we will be able to tell that story in the way that we need to tell it.
Our broadcast area actually, it only goes for 100 kilometres radius of Port Augusta, so it takes in Piri and Whyalla on its own airways. But we now with technology are able to broadcast online, which we do. It's a wonderful change, this technology. We're part of the First Nation Media Network and the National Indigenous Radio Service. We take on programs from like our national news, but also we're able to contribute to that network. I come from a background, if you can see at the back behind me is my guitar. In the early days I was part of a band. I'm a muso by and a songwriter. And when you're talking musicians or songwriting, there's always an interest in radio. Well, we get all, like with all community radios, there's a lot of characters, and we always trying to find something new a new means of delivering.
My name's Mandy, I'm Cookatha. So my family, some family live here in Port Augusta, some in Whyalla and in the Riverland. I grew up in the Riverland and have come back this way and been more involved with family here, which has been good. I'm a director at Port Augusta Children's Centre, and we wanted to be able to get stories and songs out to more children who weren't accessing early childhood services. So we come to Umeewarra to see if we could read some stories on air, and ended up with an hour show. Each week I come in with another lady called Hayley, and we do the show. So we interview people, and we try and focus on health, wellbeing and education of children in the early years, so from 0 to 8 years. We try and get children up and moving at home, and hopefully get their parents going as well. Then we tone it down a little bit, have an interview. So we have some serious bits as well. So we want to get some messages out about health and development for children. And then we tend to include children from Port Augusta. So we go to the kindies and have the children singing. We interview local people. So whenever you listen to the show, you always hear someone that you might know in Port Augusta. And then we have some kids' songs as well, and we usually have someone read a story. So try and get children to read stories so that children are listening to other children read, or local elders, or if there's people passing through that used to be in Port Augusta or are a bit famous, it's a bit exciting to hear them read a story as well. You can't catch me, then snap, snap, snap. Oh no, how many left? 4. 4 left. 4 little monkeys swinging in the tree. Along came a crooked, I was quiet as can be. I think they're always really excited to come here, and then they get in here and realise that, well, there's lots of buttons and microphones, and it's a little bit scary, so they get a bit nervous. So we have some that are really confident. We had a couple of children come down from the APY lands that I used to teach up there with their mum and their nana, and they came in and they sung Pidinjara songs really loudly, and it was really exciting. And they talked to me about all the things they do up in the lands, and so they were really confident. And then other children sort of have to work on to get them to talk, where normally outside of here they don't stop talking.
We've had a young fellow work here, started a program which is Hear Health. It's about people listening. I mean, radio is about listening, not like television. You got to see and hear. How could we get this message across to people? Someone suggested some puppets. So the puppets became, the talk of what we wanted out. We were going to deliver this program. And others said, well, how's it going to work? Because you can't see the puppets. But it's about their voiceover. So we did the Hear Health program with kids from one of the primary schools. Firstly doing the stuff on the radio, because people then were able to listen to the kids getting the message out there about taking good care of the hearing. And I was able to then develop tack the voices to the characters. So when we had our community functions or outside broadcasts, the kids would go out with their puppets, and immediately the older people start talking to them. They knew who they were through listening to the radio program, and other kids were drawn to that. It was amazing because the old grandmothers just embraced those puppets as well as their grandchildren. It was awesome.
So the book is really exciting, actually. It was an idea that came from Umeewarra because they started seeing more and more children coming in, and it had been popular with children in the past but had been not so popular. So I wanted to get that message out that Umeewarra is for the children too, and I guess they had a way to get more children and families in, and so really promoting that it's a special place for families, for everyone. And all families can be a part of it. It wasn't something that we planned, it sort of just evolved into the show, and it's still evolving a little bit as people make suggestions and we come up with new ideas. And so it'd be great if there's more out there, and happy for anyone to take it on and do it as well. But it's really exciting, and it's something special, I think, for Aboriginal families to have something of theirs and something that's relevant to them.
I am Draynard Tukurua. I'm a Wanganuru Matna man here in Port Augusta, South Australia, and I'm a radio broadcaster here at Umeewarra Media. Yeah, I'm involved around the Straight Out show, which is my show here, and it's absolutely amazing. It's like a youth show. It's going along for about 2 hours, which is good. I get to connect with a few of the kids. Talk about youth issues and stuff like that there to bring it up. Sort of talk a bit about some classic stuff, you've got a bit of sports and all that there, but I try and tend to connect with the community events if there's any other youth programs going on, or if any news that arise for young people to sort of know about and sort of connect. I try and sort of bring it out to a way which they can relate to. The idea for the name of the show, which is the Straight Out show, I wanted the idea to, if any of the young people come in, I want them to give me a straight out answer rather than sort of beat around the answer. And it's always good. It's always a playful on the show, which is good. And they really like the idea of them getting a voice on radio. And they have these most amazing stories that, you've got people who you don't really tend to think that what they could do and all the opportunities that they have, and they just come out and they surprise you. And I've got a few kids that end up having experiences that only you could share in one lifetime, and it's pretty good. I think just having that possibility of what they can change and what they can aspire to do, and I think the importance of bringing young people on radio and having that voice is just this, to voice their opinion. We're here, we sort of want to have that discussion. We don't want to just be sat in the corner and just being overlooked at. I think we have so many ideas that can be put out there to the wider community.
My name is Samantha Lee. I am the senior broadcaster here at Umeewarra Media. I'm from the Nukunnu Mob, from the Port Pirie region. Been in Port Augusta since about 4, so pretty much most of my life, more or so. And I've been here since 2002, started as a trainee, going up to Bachelor Institute up in Bachelor in the Northern Territory. Currently, I do the breakfast show starting at 7 o'clock in the morning, taking it through till about 10. Also do the country shows and the culture show, and we'll do some bit of news segments in there, a bit about what's coming up throughout the day, any new bands that's coming up, any interviews that I might want to play in the show. Culture show usually put some interviews about, or any new Aboriginal music that's coming up, because there's a lot of Aboriginal, especially I've noticed that there's a lot of Aboriginal hip hop that's been exploding lately, with Baker Boy, who's probably the main person at the moment is coming up. And then you've got artists that are in the mainstream, like Jessica Malboy, and and then you've got heaps more. Caper's another one from Whyalla. He's making his way up there. There's heaps. And then we've got interviews, obviously do that. News stories as well in that show as well. What I tend to do is from the local community first, obviously, because we are Port Augusta, and obviously going digital and streaming now, Australia-wide, we can now branch out and go more as interstate, we can go to where, Northern Territory or Victoria, New South Wales, WA or whatever.
Being, I suppose, like an activist and involved in community, my son Dre has grown up within that environment of when I've been doing a lot of public speaking or running community events. He's grown up in that lifestyle, but he's always, as a young person, been interested in media.
Photography opened my mind up. Always taking photos on your phone, and it's a lot different. You've got to look at a lot of more areas, especially with filming as well. I've never thought I would be, recognised in that sort of area, to be shortlisted in not only one event, but 2 awards as well. So, and the awards were the Best Photography Award and the oral history that I did with my mother. It was a small interview, well, a long interview really, and it was just me talking to her about her life and growing up in Davenport community and along with the mission as well. It was just great to see that, and especially the photo that was nominated was basically just my life and what I see in the photo. And as a young person, going to school, having all the pressures of a young person, and how to deal with that, and you get the expectations of what the grown-ups see you as. You might portray as a much more higher person. You've got this basically a whole community on your back. And we're so overwhelmed. Well, in the photo album, so overwhelmed, and I'm just trying to give up and just trying to live my life and trying to see what I could actually become. And I wanted to make it feel like there's still hope within your life, and there's always that light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah, so I just talked a bit about that.
Umeewarra has never been designed to just be a radio station. On our building, you'll notice when you walk in, it's an Aboriginal Media Centre. When we moved into this building, it had video and television and a recording studio. It is a centre where people can come along and do some training in sound, radio, and obviously camera work in relation to video production. We're very much involved with every activity that occurs here in Port Augusta. Or just last week, it was a Reconciliation Week. We take you to our outside broadcast. NAIDOC Week, we had most events throughout the whole week. We're currently working on or bringing to Port Augusta the guitars and bass. In the past, we've had a country music festival here that Umeewarra played a very important role in. It's about bringing the musicians here or doing stuff that the community wants us to be involved in.
Being an Aboriginal community organisation, it is good to align yourself with other Aboriginal community organisations. So Davenport has a lot to do with Umeewarra Media, and we run joint programs out of the community because we use our resources and our connections to do that.
Working here, on my show, and as one of the rules we have at Umeewarra, is that every third song has to be an Aboriginal song. And for me, it opened me up to a lot more Aboriginal artists around here, and it was more, I found more hip hop artists, I found, soul and rap and that I've never heard of before, and it just opened me up to a lot more of what's around Australia, what other languages do a lot of music, yeah.
Obviously, community radio is important because without community radio, community doesn't have a voice, and community radio helps to get the community's voice out there, but also helps get for the country artists to, get their music out there and people to hear, whether it being Aboriginal country or just country in general.
So I think community media is important because it gives people a chance to start somewhere without the pressure and to realise that something's achievable. Who would have thought that I've ever been on radio?
Having community media is great, where we can go out and experience a lot of the community events, and I think it's sort of it opens up the community to to the world, really, to see what's going on in this small town or what's going on in this little area, and people can come through, and it gives that sort of aspect of people can enjoy the town from everywhere else in the community. Yeah.
One of the things I think that the communications ministers should be looking at is supporting community radio. They are the heartbeat for communities where a lot of people often feel alone. It should not be about money. It should be, let's look at what they're bringing to the people, whether it is the person who is driving in the car or whether it is the person who's sitting alone in their home that might have mental health, or whether it is the patients in the hospital, or whether you're just walking down the street and you hear the radio. Let's support and continue to support the people who are our voice in community.
Community broadcasters are amazing, whether it be Aboriginal or non-Aboriginal community radio. Community radio and broadcasters is owned by the community. The community will do whatever necessary. That's where the social values are. These other services, the commercial operators, they're there to make dollars. We're not there for that. We operate, and on most cases, shoestring budget. We just like everybody else in the country, but we listen to our audience as well. We deliver what our audience want, and that's what makes community broadcasters. Is we listen, and we take on board, and we deliver.
Not everybody has access to social media, and it's easy to get caught up in that, but the old radio is only a dial away, Without Umeewarra, we'd have nothing. We would not be up to date. It is like a lifeline. If you're alone and somebody just switched the radio on, there's a voice that's connecting straight to you. A lot of people say that it is the thing that they identify with.
First Nations media is going to be around for a long time. There is a need for it, and we should do whatever it takes, not only in Port Augusta, but right across this whole continent. Everyone can benefit from it. It's about giving Aboriginal perspective on some of our issues that we face today, whether it be current affairs issues or whether it be about cultural awareness. Radio is a good tool to use. Today we use the radio to keep our culture strong. Our people is oral history, and what better way to use the technology today to be able to deliver that to our young people is radio.